The enormous spaceship appeared in the sky above New York without warning. The citizens looked up in terror as it blocked the sun, creating an artificial night. The ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. It stretched for miles across, the sky with lights blinking along its dark metal hull. Susan Bell stood in the middle of Times Square looking up with thousands of other people. She was not afraid. Like the others, she felt something different. A strange pull, a connection she could not explain. Susan was 30 years old with long red hair and green eyes. She worked as a scientist at the Space Research Center. She had always believed aliens existed. Now she had proof. The government tried to contact the ship. They sent radio signals. They used all the languages they knew. But there was no answer for 3 days. The world waited. The army prepared their weapons. Some people hid in bunkers. Others prayed. But Susan went to work every day studying the ship from her lab. She collected data, she made notes. She tried to understand on the 4th day the ship opened. A beam of blue light shot down to Central Park. The light stayed there, not moving. People were told to stay away. But Susan felt the pull getting stronger. She knew she had to go there. She left her lab in the middle of the day. She took a taxi as close as she could get. Then she walked past the police barriers. No one stopped her. They did not see her. It was strange, but Susan did not question it. She just kept walking toward the blue light inside the alien ship. Queen Lyra watched the small human female approach the light beam. She had been watching this human for days. This Susan Bell was different from the others. Lyra could sense it. The queen was tall with skin. The changed colors based on her mood. Right now her skin was a curious blue. Her 6 fingers tapped the control panel as she zoomed in on Susan. "Take her," Lyra ordered her guards. 2 alien beings materialized beside Susan. They were tall, with thin bodies and large eyes. They wore suits that seemed to be made of liquid metal. They did not speak. They simply took her arms, and suddenly Susan was no longer in the park. She was inside the ship in a large round room with walls that glowed soft purple. The ceiling was so high she could not see it. The floor was warm under her feet. Queen Lyra entered the room. Susan gasped. The alien queen was beautiful in a strange way. She stood 9 feet tall. Her skin now shimmered with gold and green patterns. Her eyes were large and completely black without any white. Her long neck held a head that was slightly too big for human proportions. Her 4 arms moved gracefully as she approached. "You are not afraid," the queen said. Her voice was in Susan's head, not in her ears, no. "I'm not," Susan answered out loud. "Interesting." All the others we scanned were filled with fear. The queen circled Susan, studying her. "You are different. Your mind has patterns we have not seen in other humans. You think in ways that remind me of my people." Susan stood still, letting the queen examine her. She had so many questions, but she waited. She knew this moment was important. This was first contact. She represented all humans now. She needed to be careful. "Why have you come to Earth?" Susan finally asked. Queen Lyra stopped circling and stood in front of Susan. "Our world is dying. We have searched the galaxy for a new home. We need a planet with the right atmosphere, the right resources, the right conditions. Earth is perfect. Are you planning to invade?" Susan asked, her voice steady. The queen made a sound like bells ringing. "We could take this world easily. Your weapons are primitive compared to ours. But that is not our way. We seek permission. We offer exchange. Knowledge for home." "What kind of knowledge?" "Everything." Queen Lyra gestured with her 4 arms, and suddenly the room was filled with holographic images. Cures for diseases. Susan recognized cancer cells disappearing. New energy sources that did not harm the environment. Technology beyond human imagination. Space travel to distant stars. It was overwhelming. "And what do you want in return?" Susan asked, though she already knew. "A place to live. A new start." Queen Lyra's skin shifted to a deep blue. "Some of your leaders think we want to replace humans, but we want to live alongside you. We are few. Our entire population is on this ship. Less than 10,000 of us remain. Susan thought about this. The alien queen was being honest. She could feel it somehow. But would Earth, governments believe it? Would they welcome these beings or fear them? I want to help you, Susan said. I believe you, but others will need convincing. They will be scared. The queen nodded her large head. That is why we chose you, Susan Bell. You will be our voice to your people. You will help them understand we come in peace. Susan felt the weight of this responsibility. It was huge. It was world-changing. But she also felt honored. Why me? She asked. Queen Lyra touched Susan's forehead with one long finger. Your mind is special. Your heart is open. You can see beyond fear to possibility. That is rare in any species. The touch sent a wave of images through Susan's mind. She saw the aliens' home planet beautiful, once now dying. She felt their sorrow, their hope, their journey across the stars. She understood their peaceful nature, their advanced civilization, their desperation. I will help you, Susan promised. Queen Lyra stepped back. Good. You will return now. Your leaders will contact you soon. They detected your presence here. They will have questions. Be honest. Tell them we wish to meet. We wish to talk. We wish to share. Susan nodded. Then the room faded around her and she was back in Central Park, standing in the blue light. She looked up at the massive ship, knowing that everything had changed. The future of two species now partly rested in her hands. She took a deep breath and turned to walk back to the city, to begin her new role as ambassador between worlds. Susan sat in a cold room at the military base. Men in dark suits asked her questions for hours. They wanted to know everything about her meeting with the aliens. They recorded her words. They took blood samples. They scanned her brain. General Laura Hayes watched from behind a glass window. Her face showed no emotion, but her eyes never left Susan. We need to know if they controlled your mind. The man across the table said. They didn't. Susan replied for the 10th time. They could have taken over our planet already if they wanted to. They are peaceful. They need our help. The man wrote something in his notebook. Do you feel different since meeting them? Susan hesitated. She did feel different. She could sense things now. Emotions from people around. Her faint whispers of thoughts. It was like a new sense had awakened, but she was afraid to tell them. They might think she was compromised. No, she said, I feel the same. The door opened and General Hayes walked in. Everyone else left the room. The general sat down. She was in her 50s with short gray hair and a strong face. Susan could sense caution from her, but also curiosity. The president wants to meet with these aliens, she said, but we need guarantees of safety. We need to know their true intentions. They showed me, Susan said. They let me see their memories. Their home is dying. They need a place for their people. And you believe them? General Hayes asked. Yes, I do. Susan met her eyes. They could destroy us if they wanted to, but they ask for permission. Instead, doesn't that tell you something about them? The general was quiet for a moment. I fought in 3 wars, Miss Bell. I learned that appearances can be deceiving. But she leaned forward. I also learned to trust my instincts. And something tells me, you're not lying. Thank you, Susan. Felt relief wash over her. The general stood up. The meeting is set for tomorrow. The president will speak with their leader. This alien queen. You will be there as translator, but I don't speak their language. Susan protested. The general gave her a small smile. According to your own report, you don't need to. They speak directly to your mind. The next day, Susan found herself in the White House. She wore a simple blue dress provided by government staff. She felt out of place among the officials and security personnel. The President, Diane Foster, greeted her warmly. She was tall and confident with kind eyes that had seen much in her years of leadership. Are you ready for this? Ms. Bell, the President asked. As ready as I can be, Susan replied honestly. They walked together to the East Room, which had been prepared for the meeting. There were no reporters, no cameras, just key government officials and military personnel. Susan felt the tension in the room, like a storm about to break. Their eyebrow ceiling began to glow with soft blue light, and then Queen Lyra was simply there, standing in the center of the room. Her skin shimmered with patterns of gold and white. Her 4 arms held still at her sides. Her large black eyes scanned the room. Before settling on Susan, President Foster stepped forward, showing remarkable composure. "I welcome you to Earth as the leader of the United States, one of the major nations of our world, Queen." Lyra bowed her large head slightly. "Thank you for your welcome. I am Lyra, Queen of the Azari people." Her voice echoed in everyone's minds, causing several officials to gasp. The president remained calm. "We understand you seek refuge on our planet." "Yes, Queen." Lyra gestured and a holographic image appeared in the air, showing her ship. "Our entire civilization is here. 10,000 souls. We search for a new beginning." "Why Earth?" President Foster asked directly. "There must be uninhabited planets." The Queen nodded. "Your planet has unique properties, the balance of elements, the magnetic field, the diversity of life. These things match our needs, and we seek companions, not isolation. Our species thrives through connection, through exchange of ideas. What can you offer?" "Earth in return for sharing our world, Queen." Lyra moved, her hands again, and new images appeared. Technologies beyond human understanding, cures for diseases, medical advancements that would save millions, energy sources that would not harm the planet, knowledge gathered across thousands of years of exploration. "Offer fair exchange," the Queen said. "We will share all we know. We will help heal the damage your civilization has caused to this planet. We ask only for living space, a small continent, perhaps Antarctica, or portions of unpopulated desert regions. We adapt easily." President Foster looked at her advisors. Susan could feel their mixture of awe, greed, suspicion, and hope. It was overwhelming. "We would need time to consider this proposal, to consult with other world leaders," the president finally said. "Of course," the Queen replied. "We understand the magnitude of this decision. We will remain in orbit and await your response." Her eyes turned to Susan. "And if you permit, Susan Bell will continue to serve as our ambassador. She understands us better than most." All eyes turned to Susan. She felt the weight of their stares, but she also felt something else. A certainty that this was right. This was important. "I am willing," she said. After the meeting, Susan was taken to a private room to speak with President Foster. The president seemed tired but alert. "You believe in them, don't you, Miss Bell?" she asked. "I do," Susan answered. "They showed me their history, their journey, their struggles. They are refugees, not invaders." The president nodded thoughtfully. "I sensed no deception. But my advisors are divided. Some see opportunity, others see threat. The Chinese and Russians are already demanding their own meetings. They don't trust that we will represent global interests." "What will you do?" Susan asked. Foster sighed. "The right thing, I hope. Give both sides a chance. But there will be resistance, fear. Many humans will not welcome aliens, no matter how peaceful their intentions. Queen Lyra anticipated this. Susan said she told me there would be fear. She said it was natural when facing the unknown." Smart Queen. President Foster remarked with a small smile. "Do you think they can be trusted with our most advanced weapons? Our nuclear capabilities?" Susan thought for a moment. "They don't need our weapons. Theirs are far superior, but they have strict laws against harming sentient species. It's part of their core beliefs. Their religion almost." The president stood up. "I have more meetings, other world leaders to convince, but I wanted to thank you. Ms. Bell, your courage today made history." After the president left, Susan stood alone by the window, looking out at the White House lawn. Everything seemed so normal. Birds flew by. People walked on the streets beyond the fence. The sun shone down. But nothing was normal anymore. The world had changed, and she had helped change it. She felt a gentle touch in her mind. It was Queen Lyra, connecting from her ship. You did well, the Queen sent. The seeds are planted. Now we must give them time to grow. Susan nodded, knowing the Queen could sense her response. Will they accept you? She asked silently. Some will. Some won't, the Queen replied. The path to true understanding is never easy, but it is necessary. We have seen many worlds, many civilizations. This moment of first contact is always delicate. Susan felt a wave of emotion from the Queen, hope mixed with worry. It made the alien seem more real, more relatable. Rest now. Susan Bell. The Queen sent. Tomorrow we continue our work. Tomorrow we build bridges between our worlds. 3 months passed since the first meeting. The world governments argued, debated, and finally reached an agreement. The Azari would be allowed to settle in portions of Antarctica and the Sahara Desert, uninhabited regions that they promised to transform, without harming Earth systems. Susan worked tirelessly as ambassador, traveling between capitals, explaining, translating, building trust. Today was the day the first Azari would set foot on Earth to stay. Not just their queen, but families, children, elders. Susan waited at the designated landing site in the Sahara. A temporary base had been built, simple buildings arranged in a circle around a central plaza. The air was hot and dry. Susan wiped sweat from her forehead as she stood with General Hayes and representatives from 20 nations. The sky darkened as a section of the mothership detached itself. A smaller vessel, though still massive, began its descent. It moved silently, defying the laws of physics as humans understood them. It landed without stirring even a grain of sand. The gathered humans murmured in awe. A doorway opened in the side of the ship. A ramp extended. Queen Lyra emerged first, her skin glowing with patterns of green and gold, symbolic of new life and hope in Azari culture. Behind her came others of her kind, some tall like her. Others, smaller children, held the hands of parents. Elders moved slowly, supported by younger ones. They looked both alien and familiar at once, different yet sharing the same essential hopes and needs as humans. Susan stepped forward as planned. She bowed to Queen Lyra, then turned to address the gathering. Today marks a new chapter in human history, she said. Today we welcome friends from the stars. They come in peace, seeking only a home. They offer knowledge, friendship, and help in return. Queen Lyra moved to stand beside Susan. The Queen now wore ceremonial garments draped over her tall form, symbols and patterns that told the story of her people's journey across the stars. She raised all 4 of her arms in a gesture of greeting. We thank Earth and its people for this welcome. She sent her thoughts heard by all present. We pledge to honor your trust, to share our knowledge, to heal, not harm, to build, not destroy. Together our peoples will reach new heights. The world leaders stepped forward one by one, offering formal welcomes. Some seemed genuinely moved, others clearly political. The cameras captured everything, broadcasting to billions of watching humans across the planet. Susan could sense the mixed emotions from viewers around the world: wonder, fear, excitement, suspicion. After the ceremony, Susan walked with Queen Lyra through the new settlement. Azari engineers were already at work setting up their technology systems that would draw moisture from the air, create living structures that grew rather than being built, generate energy from the abundant sunlight. This will become green within a year. The Queen explained, gardens, food production, living spaces for 10,000 of my people. The desert will bloom. The general public still has questions, Susan said. Many fear your technology, your differences. Queen Lyra nodded her large head. Fear of difference is universal. We experienced it too when we first encountered other species. But fear fades with familiarity. What about your young? Susan asked. I notice many children among your people. They seem curious about us. The Queen made a sound like chiming bells, our equivalent of laughter. Yes, our children are eager to learn about humans. Perhaps that is where we should focus next. Cultural exchange, education. Let the young of both species meet. They have fewer preconceptions. Susan thought this was brilliant. Children were naturally curious, less prejudiced. A school program could build bridges between the species. A small Azari child approached them. She barely reached Susan's waist. Her skin shimmered with bright blue patterns. Her large eyes looked up with unmistakable wonder. "This is Susan Bell," the Queen introduced, "the human who helped us find our new home." The child made a graceful motion with her arms. "Are you really human?" The child asked, her thoughts gentle in Susan's mind. "I never met a human before." Susan knelt down to be closer to the child's level. "Yes, I am what? Is your name Elia?" The child answered. "My parents say humans are different but also the same." "Is that true?" Susan smiled. "It's very true. We look different on the outside, but inside we feel many of the same things. We care for our families. We learn. We grow." "We hope." Elia seemed to consider this. Then, with the directness of children everywhere, she asked, "Can I touch your hair? It's so strange." Susan laughed and bent her head. The small alien child gently touched her red curls with slender fingers. "It's soft," Elia sent with surprise. "I thought it would be hard like Wire Queen." Lyra watched this exchange with approval. "This is how understanding begins," she said. Small moments of curiosity, not fear. Other Azari children gathered around Susan. Some adults, too. They asked questions about human life, customs, food, clothing. They shared details of their own culture. Susan learned that Azari lived nearly 300 Earth years, that they communicated through both thoughts and a complex language of gestures, that their art combined light, sound, and mental impressions. As the day continued, Susan realized something important was happening. Something beyond politics and treaties. Real connections were forming, person to person, species to species. Later, as the sun began to set, Susan sat with Queen Lyra on a hill overlooking the settlement. The sky turned brilliant orange and pink. The Azari stopped their work to watch. Many had never seen an Earth sunset before. "Beautiful," the Queen said. "Unlike anything on our homeworld." We had 3 suns. Our sunsets were brief and pale. Susan looked at the alien beings gathered below. They seemed less strange to her now. She had learned their gestures, their expressions, their emotional patterns. She could distinguish individuals by the unique patterns on their skin, by their thought signatures. "They will adapt well," she said. "Your people? They seem resilient." "They are," the Queen replied. "We have traveled the stars for generations, but adaptation is not the same as belonging. That will take time." "What about you?" Susan asked curiously. "Do you miss being among your own kind, ruling your own world, Queen?" Lyra was quiet for a moment. Her skin shifted to deep blue, reflective. This was never about ruling Susan Bell. It was about surviving. About finding hope when all seemed lost. "I carry the weight of my people's future. That does not change whether we live on our world or yours." Susan felt the Queen's loneliness, the isolation of leadership, the burden of responsibility. It echoed something in her own heart. Since becoming ambassador, she too had become set apart. Neither fully in the human world nor the Azari one. "I understand," she said softly. The Queen turned her large eyes to Susan. "You do, don't you? That is why you were chosen. That is why you could hear us when others could not. Your mind has always been reaching outward, seeking connection beyond your own kind. You are like me. A bridge between worlds." Susan had never thought of herself that way, but it felt true. She had always been different, searching for something more, something beyond the everyday world. Something like this. As night fell, the stars appeared above them. Stars the Azari had visited, stars that held secrets humans had only dreamed of. The Queen pointed to a faint star barely visible. "That was our home once," she said. "Now it exists only in our memories." But here, she gestured to the settlement where lights were coming on, Azari families settling into their first night on Earth. "Here we begin again, and we are not alone." Susan felt tears in her eyes, though she couldn't explain why exactly. Perhaps it was the weight of the moment, the beauty, the possibility, the knowledge that she had helped make this happen, that she had changed the course of two species. The universe is vast, the Queen said. But moments of true connection are rare, they should be cherished. Susan nodded, watching the new stars shine over a desert that would soon bloom with alien gardens. Cherished, she agreed, and protected. 6 months into the Azari settlement on Earth, things were changing faster than anyone had predicted. The desert regions were transforming, green patches spread outward from the alien colonies. Azari technology purified water from deep underground, and from the air itself plants grew that were hybrids of Earth and Azari species. Beautiful, strange, and highly nutritious. Susan had moved to the main settlement, working full-time as the human ambassador. She had her own dwelling, a curved structure that the Azari had grown rather than built. The walls were alive, responding to temperature and light needs. They hummed softly when she was sad, providing comfort. But not all humans welcomed these changes. Groups called Pure Earth formed around the world. They protested alien presence. They spread fears about contamination, mind control, and resource theft. Some politicians used these fears to gain power, making speeches about protecting human interests. Susan sat in a meeting with Queen Lyra and General Hayes discussing these growing tensions. The protests are getting larger. The general reported 20,000 marched in London yesterday. Similar numbers in Tokyo, Moscow, and Los Angeles. They demand the Azari leave Earth. The Queen's skin darkened. With concern, we have kept all our promises. We share our medical technology. We help clean polluted areas. We take only the land given to us. I know, General Hayes sighed, rubbing her forehead. But fear is powerful. Some humans believe you're changing Earth too much too quickly. The environmental transformations scare them. Susan understood both sides. The Azari were helping Earth healing damage humans had caused to their own planet. But the speed of change was frightening. To see deserts bloom overnight, to watch new species appear. It challenged humans' basic understanding of what was possible. We could slow the terraforming, Queen Lyra offered. We meant it as a gift. To show our gratitude, that might help. Susan said, and perhaps we need more human visitors to the settlements. Let people see for themselves that there's nothing to fear. The general nodded, but her face remained worried. There are more extreme elements. Groups gathering weapons, planning attacks. Our intelligence has intercepted messages. Queen Lyra's skin flashed red with alarm. We have children here, elders. Our defenses are minimal. We did not expect to need them. We have increased security. General Hayes assured her, but I need to ask a difficult question. She leaned forward, looking directly at the Queen. If attacked, would your people fight back? The Queen was silent for a moment. When we left our dying world, we took an oath. Never again would we use our technology to harm others. We have weapons. Yes, but they are locked, away, sealed by codes that require agreement from our entire council. Susan felt relief flood through her. She had believed the Azari were peaceful. Now she had confirmation. What if we cannot protect you? The general asked bluntly. Then we will die. Queen, Lyra said simply. But we will not break our oath. We have seen too much death, too much destruction. We choose a different path now. General Hayes studied the alien Queen with new respect. I will inform the president. Your commitment to peace may help. Convince those who fear you after the meeting. Susan walked with Queen Lyra through the settlement. Children played in new parks. Some human kids had joined them, running and laughing. The school exchange program had been a success. Humans were quick to learn the Azari mental communication. Children even quicker. Friendships were forming. You did not tell me everything earlier. Susan said to the Queen. I sensed you holding something back. Queen Lyra looked down at her. The skin around her eyes shifted to a pattern Susan had learned meant sadness. We have intercepted communications too, she admitted. Some from your government agencies, some from military leaders. Some discuss using our presence to advance human technology, to study us, to perhaps acquire our ships, our weapons. Susan felt cold inside. Despite her work, despite the progress, there was still distrust on both sides. "What will you do?" she asked. "Continue as we are," the Queen replied. "With openness, with honesty. We knew this would not be easy, Susan. Bell, nothing valuable ever is." That night, Susan couldn't sleep. She sat on the roof of her dwelling looking up at the stars. The Azari mothership was still visible, a dark shape against the night sky. Most Azari now lived on Earth, but many remained, above working rotating shifts. She felt, rather than heard someone approach Elia. The child she had met on the first day now stood beside her. The young Azari was growing quickly, already reaching Susan's shoulder. "Why are you sad?" Elia asked her thought. Voice had grown stronger. More distinct, Susan smiled at the child. "So perceptive. You can feel my emotions now." Elia sat beside her. "All children can. It's easier with you, though. Your thoughts are clear like our people's. I'm worried." Susan admitted. Worried that humans and Azari won't find peace together. That fear will win. Elia was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and took Susan's hand. Her fingers were long and slender but warm. They did not feel alien anymore, just different. "My grandmother tells stories of our journey," she said. "How we left our dying world. How we traveled through the dark between stars. How many were lost. She says, Earth is our miracle. Our second chance. I don't want to lose that." Susan squeezed the child's hand. "We won't let that happen." The next day brought news that made Susan's promise harder to keep. A pure Earth group had attacked an Azari research station in the Sahara 3. Azari were injured. No deaths. But the attack had been planned. Military style. Susan rushed to the medical center. The injured aliens lay on healing platforms, their skin pale, almost transparent. Queen Lyra stood beside them, her 4 hands moving in healing patterns. "How bad?" Susan asked. "They will recover," the Queen said. "But the damage is not just physical. Our people are afraid now. Some talk of returning to the ship, of finding another world." "No," Susan said quickly. "That would be a mistake. Running will only prove to those who fear you that they should fear you." Queen Lyra stepped away from the injured, leaving other healers to continue work. She led Susan to a quiet corner. "There is something you should know," she said. "The ship detected another vessel entering your solar system." Susan felt her heart jump. "Another alien ship?" "No," the Queen said. "It's Azari. An exploration ship we sent out centuries ago before our world began to die. They have been traveling at great distance. We thought them lost." Susan tried to understand the implications. Another Azari ship. More refugees. "They are not refugees," Queen Lyra explained. "They are explorers. They found habitable worlds. They established colonies, small but thriving. They return with news, with hope. They are 3 months from Earth at their current speed." Hope filled Susan. A solution, perhaps. Not all. Azari would need to stay on Earth. They could have choices. They could spread out, reducing the pressure on both species. "Does anyone else know?" she asked. "Not yet," the Queen replied. "We only received their signal yesterday. After the attack, I thought, perhaps, this is the answer, a way forward with less friction." Susan nodded slowly. "It could help those who fear you would feel less threatened if they knew you had other options, other homes. But I would stay," Queen Lyra said suddenly. Her voice, in Susan's mind, was intense, personal. "A portion of our people would remain here. We have begun something important, something beyond mere survival. A true exchange between species. That must continue." Susan felt unexpected emotion rise in her throat. She had grown attached to the Azari, to their queen, to this new world they were building together. The thought of them leaving, even some of them, created a hollow feeling inside. Together they walked outside. The settlement stretched before them. Beautiful, strange, a blend of 2 worlds. 2 species learning to live as one. Despite the attack, despite the fears, despite everything, Susan felt certain this was right. This was important. This was the future. That evening, President Foster called an emergency meeting. The attack had forced her hand. She announced a new protection initiative. Military forces would guard Azari settlements. Intelligence agencies would infiltrate pure Earth groups. Earth would honor its commitment to the aliens. When Susan told her about the approaching Azari ship, the president looked relieved. That could change everything, she said. Give us time to adjust, to learn from each other without the pressure of housing all your people. Queen Lyra stood tall in the human meeting room, her skin glowing with complex patterns that shifted between hope and determination. We did not come to conquer, she told the assembled leaders. We came to connect, to share, to grow together. The choice was never between taking your world or dying elsewhere. The choice was, and remains, whether our species will face the universe alone or together. Susan translated, though many now understood the Queen's mental speech directly. She watched the human leaders' faces. Some showed wonder, others calculation. A few showed genuine understanding, looking at them all humans and Azari. Susan felt something she had not expected to feel. Pride, not in herself, but in both species. For all their differences, their fears, their mistakes, they were trying. They were reaching across the gulf of biology and history and space itself. They were growing as the meeting ended. President Foster approached Susan. You were right about them, she said quietly. They truly are peaceful. Susan nodded. They want what we all want. A home. A future, connections that matter. The president looked thoughtful. I never expected to be the one who welcomed aliens to Earth, she admitted with a small smile. History has strange plans for us all. Susan looked across the room where Queen Lyra stood talking with other officials. The alien queen caught her eye and sent a warm thought of gratitude. Strange plans indeed, Susan agreed, and wonderful ones.